Welcome to part 2 of using GNIS data with ArcGIS. We'll now continue where we left off with part 1. So now that we have a database, we now need to get this into ArcMap and load it as what we call an XY data so that we can create some points in ArcMap. So I've started ArcMap into a new session here so we can pull our data into it. And the way we want to do this is we want to add this data as what we call XY data. And before we do that, let's go ahead and define a projection for our data frame, and we want to set it to be the same as the projection that we use for our XY data that we're going to pull in. So we right click on layers, go to properties, and you'll see that we see no projection currently. So we go to predefine, and this time we want geographic and North America and 1983. And again, I always pick this option that's just plain NAD 1983. We'll apply that and say OK. Now our data frame is set to the same projection as the GNIS data that we're going to pull in. And to add that, to add XY data, you go to File. And now notice this is different for version 10. If any of you are used to previous versions, then the Add XY data was located under a different menu. So this is new. So we go to Add Data, and we're going to add XY data. And that pops up this Add XY Data dialog box. And the first thing we need to do is pick the table, which is the Excel sheet in this case, that we want to load from. So we'll click the Browse button. And we route over to the folder, to the file where we stored the information. In this case, we're going to pull in the Cumberland County data that we created. So we want to pull in the Tennessee Cumberland XLS. So we select that file and click on Add. And then it asks for the worksheet. Basically, an Excel spreadsheet can contain multiple worksheets, and we only have one in this case, so we'll select that. But if we had multiple, we would need to pick the one that had the data we wanted to add. And then it tries to fill in the X and the Y field in our dialogues. But it doesn't have the correct names in there. So what we need to do is put the correct X and the Y in there, and we're going to ignore the Z for now. Now, the important thing to remember is your X field is your longitude, your Y is your latitude. And it's easy to get them mixed up because we often say latitude and longitude when we're talking about it. But in this case, the first one, your X field, needs to be the longitude. And so we'll click our drop down, and we want to pick the primary longitude for the field here. But notice while we're here that you don't see the degrees, minutes, and seconds fields that was in the Excel file. And the reason being that this is a new feature. You used to see all of the fields, but apparently this dialog now is only picking up on the actual numeric fields. And since we had other information like west and north and things like that in the other fields, it's not picking those up, which is a good thing. So and we want the decimal, and we'll go with the longitude here, and then we'll go with primary latitude. Leave the X field or the Z field blank, and it already picks a coordinate system for us, which is defaulting to the one we use for the data view, and that's good. And we'll leave this dialog turned on that says warn me if a resulting layer will have restricted functionality. Click on OK, and indeed we do get a warning, and it's basically telling us that the file that we're loading does not have an object ID field, which is what ArcMap uses to ascertain a shapefile information, and basically has topology and stuff with it, I guess. So we don't have that information in this file, so it's giving us that warning, and it lets us know that, you know, yes, I can convert it, but you're going to have restricted functionality when it comes to selecting and querying and things like that. And I'll show you how to fix that in just a minute. So for now, just say OK, and it works for a minute, adds the data to your field or to your view. And you notice you've got some really scattered data, like we've got a clump of data in this area here, but way over to the southeast we've got a point by itself. And if I zoom in to where the clump of data is, then I can see, if you're familiar with the shape of Cumberland County, you can kind of see how it fills in that shape, and you've even got some extraneous data outside of the county. And this is just sort of one of the drawbacks with the GNIS data, is it has some extraneous data. Something got confused somewhere in their system when they created this, and there's some tie, at least their system thinks that these points have some tie-in to Cumberland County. But for our use, that it's well outside the boundary. So I'm going to show you in a few minutes how you can get rid of that information. For now, let's just focus on the county area. And notice when it added the layer, it added it as what we call an event layer. You notice that it added events to the name here, and that's just letting us know that, hey, this is not a shapefile, it's actually an event layer, and you're restricted in what you can do with it. So for example, if I went up to selection, none of my select by options are available because it won't let me select anything in there. So one of the first things you want to do is turn that into a shapefile. And since in our case, we're going to actually create two shapefiles because we want to clean some of this data up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, before I do anything, I'm going to pull in a reference layer just so you can kind of see the context of where this is located. And I've got a county file I've already stored that I worked with in a previous session that I worked with, and I want to pick the one that has the datum that matches what we're using, which is the 83 datum. So I'll add that, and you can see this adds the Tennessee counties, and I'm going to go ahead and set the symbology to clear and thicken up the line a little bit there, and we can zoom in a little tighter now into the Cumberland County area. And you can indeed see even some of these points that are a little bit close that are still outside the area. Problem is, if we wanted to clean that file up, we can't select them yet, because since this is an event file, we can't select by anything. So now let's go ahead and turn this into a shape file. And the way you do that is you select the event file and then right click on the file, go down to data, and go to export data. And this is a really handy utility to remember, because it will let you basically create exports out of anything, even if we had selected information, like you'll see in a minute. But for now, we're just converting this entire event file into a shape file, so we're not selecting anything. So we're going to export all the features, and we're going to leave it set to the layer source data for the projection. Now we want to change the name, and we want to make sure it's routing over to the folder that we're using, which is the GNIS folder. And make sure for reference, yep, it is under the 101. And we're going to call this one, let's call it, we'll just call it TNCUMB temp, because this is basically going to be a temporary shapefile for our purposes, because we want to clean it up a little bit. We'll say OK, and it exports the features. Then it asks us if we want to add it to our map as a layer. We'll say yes. And you see the color changes to the new symbology of this new layer. Now I'm going to save my event file. I'm just going to turn it off for now, but I want to save it in case I need to reference it anytime later. And so now we've got a shapefile that we can actually select within. And since we have a county file in here, I'm just going to go ahead and select Cumberland County. I'll click in that county. That selects the county boundary. And then I'll click on my Tennessee Cumberland temporary layer. I'll go up here to selection, and I'm going to select by location. I can select my attributes, but we already know that some of the features that it thinks is in Cumberland County is not. So if we selected by Cumberland County, for example, it would probably pick up those other points. So let's select by location, and we're going to just follow the dialogues here. We're selecting features from, and we want to select from the Tennessee Cumberland temporary layer, and we want to use as the source layer we want the source layer to be set to the county file, and it knows that we've already selected something in there, and it's telling us use selected features by default, so we'll leave that selected. And then we want to select, for the method here, we want to select everything that we're going to leave it set to intersect, because if we leave it to intersect, it gets anything that is on the boundary or within the boundary will get included in that intersect. So it's basically like taking a cookie cutter sheet and putting over shaped like the county and putting over the data. And so we'll just say apply, and that should select all the points within the county, and you can indeed see the ones that were very close to the county but outside it did not get selected. So that's what we wanted. So we'll close that, and now while we have these features selected, we'll right click on the temporary layer and go back through the same process. We're going to create, we're going to export another data, and we'll leave it in the projection that we had, and this time it's going to the right folder. So this time we want to call it, let's just call it TN Cumberland, and we'll say OK, and we'll add it to the layer. And now we can clear all our selections, and we can turn off the temporary layer, and you can see we've got just points that are in Cumberland County. So we've done two things here. We've cleaned up our XY event layer and turned it into a shapefile, and then we cleaned that shapefile to remove the extraneous points that were outside the county boundary. So now we have only GNIS data that's within Cumberland County. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove that temporary layer. And now realize, though, that it still exists in our folder. So you might later want to go back and delete it out of that folder using either ArcCatalog or Windows Explorer. But only do so after you've saved your project and closed out of ArcMap, just to be safe. So we've got that. Now I've got another reference layer just so that you can see what these GNIS points represent. And I've got a topo map, a DRG layer here, for the Ozone Falls region. So I'll turn that on, and since we've done quite a bit of work, let's go ahead and save our project just to be safe. And I'll just call it Cumberland. And now we can zoom in this new reference layer relayed in here, and it's I picked it because of the Ozone Falls area. So I was curious about the GNIS data that might be showing up around Ozone Falls, and so I'll zoom into that area. I'm a little familiar with the area, so I can zoom into that area of the map. And let me change the symbology a little bit here to where we can see it a little better on the map. Let's pick the circle with the dot in the middle, and we'll set it to red, and let's bump it down to about 12 on the size, and there we go. So you can see now the dot showing up. Here's Ozone Falls, and you can see that it put the point, let me zoom in a little tighter, put the point right on the stream. And if we had an aerial, we might be able to tell a little better, but this is pretty close to where the actual Ozone Falls is located. So if I click on my little identify tool and click on that point, I can see my dialog here, to drag it over from the other window so you can see it. And I can see that that point is saying, yep, Ozone Falls. And you might browse around just a little bit more to see what else is in the area. And it's going to make the points just a little bit bigger so they stand out a little better. And we can see we've got a point here for ozone. Actually, it's picking up the Cumberland Quad. There we go. So it's picking up ozone, that is a populated place. And back on the falls, you may have noticed that it identified the feature class as falls, which was nice. So there we go. So you can see, and there's a lot of information gets put in here. The intersection of the streams, for example, a lot of times there'll be a point there identifying the creek that's coming into the main stream. And since we've converted it into a shapefile, we can always go in and we can select by attributes. And if we wanted to identify, for example, the churches, and notice, by the way, that our field names got cut off when we imported them. I mentioned earlier that I thought that they had not, but they had indeed. Some of them got cut off a little bit here. You can see feature name is shortened. When we converted it into a shapefile from the event file is when it clipped those off. So our event file had the full names in there, but when we created the shapefile, they got clipped off. So what you might want to do to avoid this is when you're back in Excel, before you ever pull it in as an event file, you can change the names up in that header there, and instead of feature name, you can just say name, and that will shorten it out. And I believe it's up to 10 characters you can create. It's basically like a DBase kind of thing. It's a limitation that would have existed back in DBase, which usually you have to have no more than 10 characters, and that's because ArcGIS is using for its database, it's still got a DBF file, if you've noticed, so it's got some limitations there. But we've got enough here to be able to tell what we're working with, so we're fine for now. But let's just say we wanted to identify all the churches. We could double click this to say feature class. So we can say feature class, and we can say show me all of the church. So we got feature class, and then we want to say equal to and equal to church. Can apply that. Say OK. And we can zoom out to the extent of the selected by right-clicking on the layer and go to selection and zoom to selected features. And you can see all of the churches are highlighted in the county. So let's just for reference, let's identify one that's on the quad we're looking at, just to verify that it is indeed picking up a church. And in this case, we've got one that's showing up, but it's not saying church on the topo. And there's a chance that it could be a newer church than existed perhaps when the topo was created. So this is calling it a church, and it says it's in the Millstone area, and we can see Millstone here, so we know that at least we're in the proximity. So let's pick another one just for reference to see if we can find one that shows up also on the topo map. Zoom into this area. And there at least we see a church symbol next to it, so so we can tell this was one that was on the topo map. And the name of this one is Daysville Baptist Church. Yeah. And you can see we're in we've got Daysville Cemetery up here. So you can see, and actually the cemetery's got a point by it. If you clicked on that, it probably will say cemetery, because cemeteries are in the GNIS data as well. Yeah, the Day is calling it Day Cemetery. So it's pulled it straight off the map. So we're in the Daysville community, but they just shortened it to Day Cemetery for some reason. So there you can see the points are there. There are slight differences. If you look around the map here, you can see that there's slight offsets on the locations. Lots of times if you compared this with an aerial, you find out that they're pretty close to being right on the money. There's errors in all different data sources. So our topo map might have drawn the exact location of the cemetery a little bit off, So the error is not to say it's in the GNIS data. It could be on the topo map, could be in the GNIS data. We don't know for sure, but at least it's very close. And one of the things that, if you think about it in context, it saves you a lot of time working with this GNIS data. There's lots of points. We've got over 1,000 points for Cumberland County alone. So if you could imagine trying to digitize all those through heads-up digitizing, you can imagine how much time you save starting from this as a source data. So it's a valuable data set. I think we'll stop there. You should have enough information now to be able to process it and put it on a map. You can pull in a reference map to kind of check your work and see how it looks, and hopefully you'll find some use for this data set. There's lots of feature types in it, so if you're looking for anything from schools to churches to summits, like if you're looking for mountain peaks in the west, for example, where there's a lot higher mountain peaks, it's got that information on there. There's lots of stuff. We've worked even with, as some of our examples, we were looking in Yellowstone a while back, and the GNIS data even has geyser locations in it. So there's lots of stuff there. Waterfalls. So explore it, try it out on your own, see if you can make some use out of this, and we'll probably work on an exercise on this here soon as well, just to give you some practice with it. So enjoy it.